A very, very good afternoon. Monday, the 23rd of June, 2025. My name is Raja Miah. This is a continuation from last night's transmission. We just simply ran out of time. There were thousands of people who joined us, but I'm afraid we ended up past 11 o'clock and it was just getting later and later, and I still had quite a bit to get through. These are the links to support me. The simple fact is I have no corporate sponsors, no party machinery, none of that. I am 100% funded by you, by ordinary people. So if you take value in my work, please do sign up to Red Wall and the Rabble. It is 100% free. You only pay if you want to, but that's where I share all my work through. We are creeping towards 5,000. Our target is 10,000 for us to be able to inform and shape the national inquiry. It is as simple as that. If we are to lobby, we are to hold them to account. The simple fact is no one else is going to do it. The only person who has done it up to now has been me. It's been through this platform, through this space. It's what's got us this far. Yes, there are plenty of other people working on this issue. Maggie Oliver, Charlie Peters, Tommy Robinson, Nigel Farage, name 'em, Rupert Lowe. I have no issue with anyone. What I do bring is something very specific and very unique, and that is a campaigning methodology and an educating mindset, which is what they fear the most. So this is me. This is what I've been doing for 6.5 years, approaching 7 years, and before that there was 20 years of public service. So that's where I come from. There is no bandwagon here, and I think it's as simple as that, Gary. Without 10,000, it's not just I will lose this battle, we will lose this war. I want to replay the entire interview with Priti Patel, first of all, specifically just a section to do the Pakistani Rape Gangs. I think it's of value. I went and found it earlier on this morning and I thought, no, you know what, we'll start here and we'll carry on, because I was in also complete shock as to what she was admitting to. So I thought, here we go, let's go and find it. It's only a few minutes, 3 minutes 17. So you need to listen to all of it, I think.
To this. This is the 2020 report into the grooming gangs by the Home Office. You wrote the foreword. It quite preposterously concluded that there was not a disproportionate overrepresentation of British Pakistanis.
So off the back of that report, I set up something called the External Reference Group that looked into the characteristics, the nationalities and the origins of those that were involved in the grooming gangs. We call it grooming gangs now, but it was a range of activity, basically, criminal activity against girls. And actually, I worked with the likes of Sarah Champion and brought in others on that work. And we've got to remember, at the time we had the J review taking place, so we were not in the position to start initiating new reviews. You have to have these ones. The J one was a big one.
No, but do you regret putting your name to that report?
Well, I think actually in hindsight, absolutely, because now we see so much more evidence that has come forward. And it is only through the further evidence, the effectively challenging of the institutional state failure that we've seen. Certainly that applies to the Home Office, there's no doubt about that. That applies to social services around the country. It applies to health services around the country. Definitely applies to local government and local government leaders as well. So the answer to that question is yes. And there should have been so much more that took place in the past, not just to have stopped this, but to fast-track prosecutions and for the state, parts of the state to stop facilitating, I think, and covering up some of the things that went on.
Let's talk about that very briefly, Whitehall, because this week Dominic Cummings and Michael Gove was the former Education Secretary, Cummings was his special advisor, both said that they felt that Whitehall officials pushed back. They pushed back and actually tried to injunct Andrew Norfolk when he wanted to expose everything in the Times in 2011. Was one of the reasons you were pushed out of the Home Office because you wanted to crack down on this?
So I'm very forthright, as people who know me know that I am, and I'm driven by driving outcomes and making sure that no stone is left unturned. And on this in particular, absolutely. I look back and I know that I did a lot of scrutiny, asked all the right questions, probably made a lot of people feel very uncomfortable. I know there are officials in my department that felt very uncomfortable with my line of probing, my line of questioning.
Did they push back and try and cover things up?
I think absolutely. There's no question about that.
So this inquiry has to look at the politicians, but it also has to look at the civil servants.
So I think this inquiry is...
everyone in Whitehall.
It's everyone. It's about institutional state failure. Camilla, this is institutional state failure at every single level. I'm very happy to participate in the inquiry and share what I knew, the questions that I put forward, but also the challenges that I had to put forward in the system and where we weren't getting answers. And by the way, that wasn't just in the Home Office. That was in local councils, the NHS. I remember visiting Sarah Champion's constituency, and I think we were both pretty horrified and gobsmacked by the non-answers we were getting. And I will say this, probably the level of indifference we were receiving to our line of questioning.
Well, let's hope that we get further and thorough lines of questioning in this inquiry. I'm sorry you have been a bit squeezed because Jonathan Reynolds was late and I know you have an interview to go to. But thank you very much for your time, Dame Priti.
OK, I'll put the comments up as they come along so you can see them as well. I'm very sorry to hear this, Pauline, but it's not something I can do anything about. And if you're looking for a platform or a channel that just focuses on crimes Muslims commit, there are plenty out there. I'm afraid I'm not one of them. So I believe there is a massive issue, but that is just one issue. So if you want that, again, to all of you, I know many of you joining me new and maybe thinking there'll be something here that I'm not. I think it's better you don't waste your time, and I don't waste your time because I'm not that. I've just shared something absolutely staggering, I believe, which is the former Home Secretary admitting to a whole host of things, speaking extremely fast, and you want to talk about a fight in a park. I'm sorry, this is why we're in this mess. Our inability to remain focused. And I'm not getting away from what happened, what you witnessed, but I'm not that. I can't be anything on that. So, no, Owen, first and foremost, no. What I've done, I'll talk about it later, is I put together a masterclass on the National Inquiry and how it works, because the truth, sadly, is most people have limited understanding of one. So what she's talked about first and foremost is there were two questions asked in all of that. One question asked was would she like to basically respond to the now confirmed inaccurate report that she wrote the foreword to in 2020. The one that tried to say there was no ethnic correlation, there was no religious correlation. And no, it doesn't matter. I have no interest. I don't work like that, Pauline. I'm not here to delete your comment. I'm here just to share with you what my focus is. So what she said straight away was, yes, in hindsight, she regrets it. In hindsight. Absolute bollocks, first and foremost. Because in hindsight, she's claiming at the time she didn't know that she was fronting fake data. She's the Home Secretary. And what a national inquiry has to do, in terms of its terms of reference, is look at this 2020 report. Because this was an action by the state, by the government, to cover up, by deep state. Yeah, what she's talking about is deep state. Not the politicians, not the Home Secretary, which is what she was, one of the most powerful politicians in the country. She's talking about the machinery of the state. She's making reference to deep state preventing it being brought to public attention that tens of thousands of Pakistani men were gang raping hundreds of thousands of little white girls over decades. And she was speaking very, very fast. Now, her first line of defense was she, as a consequence of that report, she did some sort of deep dive or launched something that looked at the characteristics of the grooming gangs, the ethnicities, the backgrounds. Well, if she did that, and this is 2020, by the way, in 2025, Baroness Casey has confirmed that the data is absent, and where the data does exist, it demonstrates an overrepresentation of Pakistani men. Tipex was the term Baroness Casey used. Tipex. The word Pakistani was Tipexed out. So now you can see straight away her defense that she launched a scheme to look at the characteristics. Well, where did that scheme go? Was it the deep state again? Was it the deep state again? And in hindsight, she regrets it, but she also throws under the bus not just the Home Office that she was responsible for, social services, health services, the NHS, councils, council leaders, and she confirms that the state was covering up and facilitating and Sadly, Camilla Tomini interrupted her at that point. She should have allowed her to continue, because Priti Patel had just got to the best bit, confirming that the state covered up and facilitated. This isn't me. This is on that interview. She was then asked the second question about whether she was pushed out of the Home Office because of this, because of her position on asking questions over the grooming gangs. And her response is, on this particular issue, absolutely. Institutional state failure. Those are the former Home Secretary's words. There was institutional state failure. And she is, if you heard her correctly, offering to give evidence. She is offering to give evidence to the National Inquiry. We don't have these things in the United Kingdom, but if we did, I'd say she is looking for a plea deal. She is offering to testify against the state. This is the former Home Secretary Priti Patel confirming that the state covered up and facilitated the gang rape, the industrial scale gang rape of children, that there was institutional state failure at every level, that she was pushed out of the Home Office because she was asking difficult questions. She regrets being part of the cover-up, and she is now offering to give evidence. Why is this not front page news? I know this was in a little part of an interview she gave yesterday to GB News, and she currently holds, Priti Patel, isn't some obsolete ex-politician. She's currently the shadow Foreign Secretary. The former Home Secretary and the shadow Home Secretary is offering to testify against the government. Just sip my vim. It's always in the details. It's nearly always in plain sight. And it's always, we get to this by scrutinizing every document, every interview, what is said, what hasn't been said. And this is what I do 18 hours a day and have been doing for the last 6 years and more. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Raja Miah. I am the campaigner who forced Oldham Council to write to the government demanding a public inquiry. It took myself and my team 6 years to do that, which has triggered what is now taking place. I'm not Maggie Oliver. I'm not going to get a queue of survivors to share their stories of the horrific things that were done to them so you feel sorry for them. I'm not that. There is a place for that. I'm not a Tommy Robinson who holds rallies and marches and is confrontational. That's not what I do. I'm not a Nigel Farage. I'm not even a Rupert Lowe. I'm not a politician. I am a campaigner, and this is what I do. And now do you see, Pauline? From where you were to where you are now in just a couple of minutes. You need to sign up to my masterclass, Janet, that is coming along very soon on a national inquiry, because what you've heard is complete nonsense. What you've heard is complete nonsense. I want to now share with you something else. Yesterday I shared with you an article from the Manchester Evening News, which was the rewriting of history, where Andy Burnham was taking credit for Baroness Casey changing her mind and coming out in support of a national inquiry. We know Burnham is neck deep in the cover-up of what is taking place, and we know the Manchester Evening News are neck deep in it as well. I have shared with you for a number of years that the Manchester Evening News knew about the cover-up, the grooming and gang rape of children. The reporters knew about it, and they consistently hid it, and they hid it because of their relationships with the councils, who, by the way, funded them, and the politicians, who, by the way, they were ideologically aligned to. Go to a party involving Andy Burnham, and you'll see many a young woman reporter hanging out who all work for the Manchester Evening News, Reach Media, all of that. It's a club, and it's a sleazy club. I spent a past life travelling through your lovely country, Bill, and I enjoyed it immensely. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Here we have the Manchester Evening News running with this headline today. An uncomfortable truth that shames us all. A public inquiry into grooming gangs will leave blood on the carpet and reputations in tatters. John Skierhout, who has covered the scandal for more than a decade, says it might be just what is needed. So that's one of the main reporters for the Manchester Evening News, John Skierhout. Just doing something, give me 1 second. And so there is no ambiguity as to my position. This is what I think of this man. Judge dismisses case against Raja Miah as accuser is scattering her mother's ashes in Greece. The case against me collapsed. The Manchester Evening News were partners in trying to have me prosecuted and adding pressure against me all the time to prevent me sharing, forcing, campaigning to force this national inquiry that we now have. A judge dismissed a harassment case against Raja Miah after prosecutors decided to offer no evidence against him. John Skierhout, do you see? Crime reporter. Kept using my photographs, and then on X, the so-called victims would then share their made-up stories about me. I want to show you something. Raja Miah, 50, had pleaded not guilty to a single charge of harassment without violence, namely that on 4 occasions, he posted derogatory online comments about Gail Hadfield Granger between October the 18th, 2020 and November the 11th, 2021. She ran away from giving testimony. At Manchester and Salford Magistrates Courts on Thursday morning, Mr Miah's supporters cheered in the public gallery after a judge dismissed a hearsay application for Miss Hadfield Granger's statement to be read out in her absence during the trial. So what that means is that her evidence would be read out without the ability of it being questioned. A kangaroo court. You see? A kangaroo court is what the CPS tried. And I think they would have got away with it if so many of you hadn't come to court with me and stood in the public gallery packed and the area outside packed. Because throughout all of this, we forced these people to not be able to hide. But John Skierhout was there to try and have me prosecuted. He was one of her team. He was enjoying it. District Judge Jane Hamilton told Mr Miah, I dismissed the matter against you and you are free to go. And then it goes on about Ms Hadfield Granger ignores the fact that she's a Labour Party campaigner. They tried, first of all, to vacate the trial. Remember, I'd been on bail for already 3 years, and delay it. And the judge said no. And the hearsay application for her statement was refused. Mr Williams told the court Ms Hadfield Granger had suffered a bereavement when her mother died in February, and her mother's last wish was for her ashes to be scattered in Greece. No, she went on holiday is what she did, to Greece. Yeah, maybe she scattered her mum's ashes, but there was no reason why she should have gone at that time. I wouldn't be surprised if Greater Manchester Police paid for her to go away. Or the CPS paid for her to go away because the evidence against me had been fabricated. Something about some video link and nonsense. And it was her evidence was apparently of significant public interest. It was in the public interest, well, it was in the political interest to maliciously prosecute me. Asked by the judge why the witness had chosen this week for the trip, Mr Williams said, we do not know. Mr Miah's barrister, Steve Nikolic, said the defence was ready for trial, pointing out that the trial date had been fixed by the same judge in August the previous year. That's her there. Fake lawyer. She's not a lawyer. Mr Nikolic told the court the complainant was no stranger to the legal process, particularly in criminal cases, adding that there seems to be something not right about this. The complainant knew when the trial was going to be and went anyway. That's her. Off she went, after trying to have me maliciously prosecuted on fabricated evidence. And the CPS tried to convene a kangaroo court where her testimony would not be cross-examined. The MEN knew all of this, but you can see how they're writing it up. They kept using this picture of me. This is what I looked like younger when this started. A lifetime ago. A different person. The barrister pointed out that the defence would not be able to cross-examine his client's accuser and that this would be manifestly unfair, pointing out the defendant, as in me, was a man of good character. When District Judge Hamilton ruled Miss Hadfield Granger's witness statement could not be used as part of the prosecution, Mr. Williams said the Crown offered no evidence and asked for the case to be dismissed. I want you to read this bit. When approached for comment afterwards, Mr. Miah said, so when this John, whatever his name is, approached me for comments afterwards, and you can see they're also putting my address, continue to put my address, which is why I share my address, because they've used my address to try and incite people to attack me. When approached for comment afterwards, Mr. Miah said, I don't talk to your kind. So there is no ambiguity as to what I mean by what kind this man is. The crime reporter, John Skeerhout, at the Manchester Evening News, so there is no ambiguity. His kind are rape gang protectors. Pakistani rape gang protectors. Labour Party block vote protectors. That's what his kind are. An uncomfortable truth that shames us all. I'm afraid this uncomfortable truth, however it shames you, don't you dare put me in the same place. Back in 2010, journalists started to hear for the first time that predatory gangs of Asian men were raping and sexually exploiting vulnerable white girls. In Rochdale, paedophiles were plying them with drink and sharing them at sex parties across the north. It's a shocking, heartbreaking story we've grown all too familiar with, but back then there was a palpable reluctance to give credence to the notion that race could really and truly be a factor in these pernicious, coercive, disgusting crimes. I don't even know how to pronounce that word, pernicious. It was the same impulse which encouraged one official to typex out the word Pakistani on one file of sexual abuse. Baroness Casey revealed this week as part of her audit, which has persuaded the government to carry out a U-turn and announce a full public inquiry. In October 2010, the Manchester Evening News learned that the police investigation in Rochdale, and when we approached GMP and the forces asked us to postpone our story until they had spoken to all the victims. It's important to say GMP never asked us not to publish, so they didn't publish. They were part of the rape gang cover-up. The Manchester... Thank you, Nikki. Pernicious. Manchester Evening News were part of the Pakistani rape gang cover-up, and this is them rewriting history. None of us believed it. The world was different. The culture was this and that. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry, John, you prick. You and your mates at the Manchester Evening News are neck deep in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of little white girls, and you and every one of your vermin kind involved in the Manchester Evening News at the time, and subsequently when they came after me and people like me for exposing this, you should be prosecuted. You should be prosecuted. It's important to say GMP never asked us not to publish, but you didn't publish. You had a duty to tell people, and you had a duty over the 15 years afterwards to fight for children, and you were part of the cover-up, part of the rape gang cover-up. In the end, the scandal was first exposed in January of the following year by our chief reporter Neil Keeling in the MEN and by the late Andrew Norfolk in the Times. Piss off. Andrew Norfolk in the Times did the work. Andrew Norfolk in the Times did the work. And I'm sorry, I'm swearing. But you can see what these people did. They covered things up at the time. And then they came after those of us who had the courage and the conviction to say, under no circumstances ever can anyone ever justify, legitimise the gang rape of children. Thank you, Andrew. No more. No more can we vote for the Labour Party. No more can we trust publications such as the Manchester Evening News. No more can we look to the BBC. No more. I covered each day of the shocking Rochdale grooming gang trial in 2012. And the MEN has been following the case closely ever since Liar. If you were at the grooming gang trial in 2012, every day of it, you would also have reported on how these grooming gang members had received references from Labour Party politicians trying to protect them. Where is your story on that? Where is your story that Shabir Ahmed worked in the council and had access to children? Nowhere. These guys were part of the cover-up. Norfolk, he's trying to link himself to Andrew Norfolk. Mate, you couldn't even... What is it they say about the shoe? And what's on the sole of the shoe? You're not even that. Norfolk, like pretty much all journalists who covered the scandal, this correspondent included, struggled at first to believe it could possibly be true and worried the whole thing would be leapt on by racists and extreme nationalists. Fuck off. You were worried that the gang rape of children could be exploited by racists and extreme nationalists. So what? You downplay it. You try and cover it up. The abusers flourished in the vacuum made possible by the inertia, the reluctance of people in polite society to tackle the problem head on and for fear of being branded racist. Do you see how he's shifted the narrative? Fear of being branded racist. No, we now know. We now know that they flourished not in a vacuum made possible by inertia. They flourished because of the space created by the dependency of Labour Party politicians on the reliance of the bloc postal vote delivered to them by Pakistani cartels, Islamists and members of the mosques that they'd secretly funded and community centres. That is why they flourished. They did not flourish for fear of being fear of being branded racist. They flourished because the politicians, the political elite, protected these men, and they protected these men because of the dependency they had on these men and the communities where they had influence on supplying them with votes. As Home Secretary Yvette Cooper revealed this week, as she announced a full public inquiry, the figures on the ethnicity of group-based sexual grooming are lamentable. It is only recorded in 37% of cases. Well, why is it not reported in the others? My information from police officers is that it was hidden. Yet there is enough information elsewhere to tell us Asian men, Pakistani men, dirty, filthy Pakistani men from Mirpur and the clan-based, cousin-marrying, barbaric traditions where they believe taking sex slaves is acceptable and justifiable through their interpretation of religion. There is enough information elsewhere to tell us Asian men are disproportionately reflected in the makeup of the grooming gangs and that the overwhelming majority of the victims are white females. Oi! White children. White children. GMP. That's the same GMP where 8 police officers were in my living room after hammering down my door. Again and again they came and arrested me. GMP now accepts the harsh criticisms for its failures. Pakistani rape clan protectors. Remember, Greater Manchester Police to this day are protecting police officers that were members of the rape gangs. Why does Andy Burnham, the Mayor, Police and Crime Commissioner, not issue a statement on police officers confirmed on national news on Channel 4 by Maggie Oliver? Why has Burnham got nothing to say about police officers that were members of the Pakistani rape gangs? Why, Andy? Is it because they've now been promoted? Maybe they're senior police officers and also have a cousin who's an MP, a Pakistani MP, some clan cousin who's an MP. Why are we protecting these people? Why are we protecting these people? GMP confirmed to Baroness Case's audit it's investigated 35 group-based child sexual exploitation operations and identified 243 suspects in the 3 years up to May this year. The biggest group, 131, were Asian males. Remember, 2/3 of the figures they've not got. The figures were belated confirmation of an obvious and extremely uncomfortable fact that gangs of mostly Pakistani heritage men were raping vulnerable white girls. Before these striking but partial figures belatedly came along, journalists and anyone in court with eyes could see that nearly all the men in the dock were Asian, and nearly all the young victims giving damning evidence over a video link were white girls. And then he goes on to defend Andy Burnham. They are rewriting history because the review team and this rewriting of history, front and centre of Andy Burnham's review team's statements, always was they found no evidence of a political cover-up. They've dropped that now. Compelling evidence of widespread organised sexual exploitation. No evidence of a political cover-up. Please, if you are finding value in what I share, and I've got content, I could honestly turn this on, make a list, get a bottle of Vimto, and I could run non-stop for at least a week. And I'd still have another week's worth of content to share with you. If you're finding value, you've taken out your lunch hour to come and join with me. So you are finding value. You've taken out your lunch hour. Please sign up to this. redwallandtherabble.co.uk. If you don't support me, we don't win. It's an echo chamber. We're speaking with a small group of people and we're not breaking through. It can't be like this. It mustn't be like this. Please sign up. And I'm thankful to the two people who have signed up since we started this broadcast. There's so much more I want to go through. I'm on my way to London now. I've got huge meetings tomorrow about if we get to where we need to get to, and it'll take me 3 years. I can't say who I'm meeting, how many people I'm meeting, but I'm telling you the meeting is huge. And if we get to where we need to get to, we will change the future of this country and save it from these Islamists and their Labour Party partners, from surrendering all that we hold dear, which is why they managed to sell our children, and not one of them blinked an eyelid. You've seen me share today how the former Home Secretary has confirmed that the state covered up and facilitated the industrial scale gang rape of this nation's children, and that this was institutional state failure at every level. She claims she was forced out because she pushed back and asked these uncomfortable questions. She regrets her role in fabricating evidence, attempting to cover up what took place, and she is offering to give evidence to the public inquiry. This is completely unprecedented, and no amount of revisionism from the likes of the Manchester Evening News, Andy Burnham, none of them is going to take away that actually these people were involved because they knew what was going on, and they did not use the power or the authority given to them. Thank you so much for the £2 Rian. I'm grateful. Thank you to the 2 people who've signed up. My only fear is we're not going to be able to break through because there's not enough of us. The truth is now out, and you can now see how they're trying to save their own necks, such as Priti Patel, or rewrite history, such as John Skeerhout, or even worse, do what Andy Burnham's doing. My name is Raja Miah. Speak to you all soon.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.